Welcome to GHV Mentors, the podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs avoid critical mistakes and build thriving businesses. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, we're here to guide you with insights, strategies, and real-world advice.
I'm Brian Powell, proud father, youth advocate speaker, and an entrepreneur mentor specializing in sales team restructuring.
My name is Kellen. I've grown and scaled multiple businesses with my partner, Brett, who's actually in the meeting with us today in different industries, haven't I, Brett?
Yes.
So Brett's here. He's actually, before we worked together, he actually has worked in many different industries. His most interesting, I would say, would be his international experience doing import-export of agricultural products. And then I think you've been what countries have you not been to? Be a shorter list, wouldn't it? You've been to the UAE, the Arab. Yeah. Where else?
I've been to Taiwan, to Korea, to Japan, the Philippines,
China.
Yeah.
All over. And you've done business, B2B businesses, B2C businesses. They asked me about your experience, and I said he's just a serial entrepreneur. He likes to start stuff.
Yeah, in fact, when I was in college, I went to school for HVAC actually, and I actually didn't want to do that originally. I went there just because I thought it was kind of a neat thing to do, and a friend did that, and so I went to the trade school, and my brother called me, and he says, "Hey, he was dating all these women down in Rexburg," and I thought I need to get down there and chase those women, and so I called my dad up, and I told my dad, I said, "Hey, I want to switch schools. I want to go to BYU, Idaho, and I want to go down there." And he says, "Why?" He says, "Well, I want to go chase women." He says, "Stay where the hell you're at." I said, "Okay." So I stayed there, and that's when I got involved in the HVAC. But while I was in the HVAC, I learned to sharpen my skills. I would go and buy used refrigerators, fix them up, and then sell them. So I'd buy them for like $25, and then I'd sell them for $200 or $300, and that's how I put myself through school.
Yeah, I remember my mom said, Brian, that their whole living room was full of refrigerators, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So
that adventure.
I would fix them, and the good thing about that is it made me very good at what I was going to school at, because I had all that experience.
Yeah.
So
would you say that was your first business?
I would say that was probably the very first thing I ever did, did that. Yeah. I always thought that if I could always think, I need some extra money. So, but learning doing that the first year, I couldn't stand to work on those damn things ever since then. I hated them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're definitely excited to have you. One thing I want to point out, obviously with 50 years of entrepreneur mindset, what was it about your early years, as far as whether it's growing up or anything like that, to where your mindset shifted to wanting to be an entrepreneur? Because I understand you only have maybe one or two just jobs as an employee before you started your entrepreneur mindset.
I only have one. I worked for
There you go. Yeah.
I worked for an HVAC company.
No, you worked you worked in college, didn't you, for like a dirt company?
Oh yeah, I did that too. I did construction, and then I did technically as an employee, but we worked weekends with me and my brother. But then after I got out of HVAC school, I went and worked for a company called Basin Heat and Air out of Moses Lake, and I did that, and I just didn't really like it that much. And so my dad said, "Hey, why don't you go up to Ellensburg and start buying hay? A certain type of a hay. It was a Timothy hay." And so I got in my little pickup and I drove up there. I didn't have any kids at the time, and I went around and talked to all the farmers. "Hi, my name's Brett Calloway. How are you?" In fact, there was this one exporter, the way he introduced himself, and he was kind of my silent mentor, and his name was Ron Anderson. And when he'd shake your hands, he goes, "Oh, I'm Ron Anderson." And I thought, I like that. And so from then on, I would always reach up and shake somebody's hand. I'd say, "Hi, I'm Brett Calloway. How are you?" But I know that after I would go, and I was a young guy, I was probably 22, 3, and here's this 23-year-old kid coming up to this old farmer, and saying, "Hey, can I buy your hay?" "Hell no, get out here. But over time, I end up getting some clients, and it started to grow. Now I was working with my father, and then I thought, well, shoot, I need to get some extra money. So
Now, was he paying you, or was that an entrepreneurial, 100% entrepreneurial?
it was 100% salary. Yeah, no, commission.
100% commission.
100%.
Okay.
And I was going to school up at Central Washington University at the time as well. And so then I thought, you know what, I need to get some of this action. I'd load trucks, with, containers we ship overseas. And I thought, I got to get some of this action. And so I thought, I'm going to start a company called, I don't think Kellen even knows this, a company called Container Express. And it was a truck brokerage company. And I had a couple trucks. And what I do is I went out and bought these. I bought 2 little single axle tractors. So what you do is you bring these containers in from the port, you put them in a yard, and then you go to the fields, load them, bring them back to the yard, and then you'd fumigate them for bugs, and then you ship them overseas.
And so these are shipping containers, right? So those Connex shipping containers, and you bought them, or how did you get the containers?
We would actually get them through the ship line, and then we would make a booking, which is you would get a order from a customer, and they'd say, hey, fill these loads up, and then you send trucks to the port, and they would pull them out.
So you would get the shipping containers, go to the farmers' fields, load up hay in those containers, and you guys were hand loading these bales of hay?
Yeah.
And then they were hand loaded bales of hay in a shipping container, and then they would go directly back to the port.
Right. And
no, you had to fumigate them.
Actually, before that, we used to put them we'd fumigate them over to Seattle. So I'd have to go over there twice a week to fumigate them. And so you're paying a fumigation company, and I thought, I want some of that money. And so I went and took the test to be a fumigator. And so then they paid me money to fumigate them. It was like $6 a ton, something like that.
Who paid you the money?
The company did.
The company who was buying the hay?
Well, it'd be in a roundabout way, right? It was my father. He'd have to pay the fumigator, and he said, well,
okay.
I told him, say, hey, I want to do this. And he says, fine. And I said, what are you paying those guys? And of course, he tried to Jew me down, and I wouldn't budge. And so I got $6 a ton, and that's quite a bit of money, $6 a ton. So
how much ton were you moving?
We would do 5 to 10 containers, anywhere between 10 to 20. I'd go over to fumigate. So and usually the containers had about 12 tons in there. And so what's that, 60, 70, $80, 70, $70, something like that.
$70 a container?
Yeah.
And how many containers were you doing a day?
20.
You were doing 20 a day. So you were netting yourself $1,400 a day in personal income.
Yeah, it was kick ass.
That was really good.
Yeah. I really did good with my younger years.
So was that something that you ran with your dad, or was that yours?
He was kind of like me and Kellen.
Okay. Okay. What was your first opportunity where you kind of branched off on your own as far as an entrepreneur experience?
Well, I basically went into the trucking is what I did is the Container Express. So I bought these little trucks, single axles, and I paid $3,000 a piece for them. Actually, $2,995. And I didn't have any money. And back then they used checks, and I thought, well, checks are money. So I wrote them the check, and they bounced. And while the whole time I was hauling like crazy, they bounced again. They called me up, and they were madder than hell. So then I had the money by that time from all the hauling, and I paid for the trucks.
So basically, you bought 2 trucks on fraudulent checks. Let's be clear here. You bought 2 checks. You wrote a check, did check fraud, waited to generate enough revenue with the trucks to then pay for the trucks, and you paid for them in cash basically when you were all done.
Yep.
First, we're not condoning this or recommending it.
Yeah, don't do this. But as they say, it might be the power of broke. When there's a will, there's a way. Not that it's a legal way.
I knew that I could generate the money fast enough to where by the time the checks went through, I would have the money, but it took a little bit longer than I thought.
Yeah. Those are the days. Nowadays, it's wire transfers before you leave the yard, right? Those you caused the issue basically.
Yeah,
Because of people like you, we can't do that checks anymore.
I did. Anyway,
So,
and so from there, I had these little trucks, but I'd put them in the yard. The long haul truckers would it wasn't long haul, but they would haul them about 100 miles away. They'd come in, drop the empty, take it back to Seattle, and then I'd take them, the little trucks, go out the field, load them, and then come back and I discounted those. See, that's the thing. I only had a budget, so I had to get their funds. So I would discount them. I said, I'll go to go to the fields, load them, and then this is how much you're going to, I'm going to pay you because I'm doing this service. And they were glad because usually it'd take them all day to get loaded. So
that makes
that's how I
sense.
started. And so from then on, I took the trucks and I thought, you know what? I don't need those over the road, that trucking company. And so as time went on, I bought my own trucks that went over the road. And eventually I put the fumigation yard right there in the town we were in. And so they would fumigate and then my trucks hauled all the product back and forth to the coast. And I got it to like, I don't know, 15 trucks, 18 trucks, something like that.
That's pretty good. I do want to back up just a little bit though. So before you took that step, as far as making that first entrepreneur step, did something happen that changed your mindset to start having a more entrepreneur mindset? Or was it more just taking advantage of an opportunity that you saw right in front of you?
Why do this?
My dad was a farmer, and so
Hmm.
he was pretty aggressive. But I think that when people say I'm an entrepreneur, I really hate that when they say I'm an entrepreneur. Because I mean, if they're saying I'm an entrepreneur, more than likely they're not, is what I think. It's just
Hmm.
that's who you are. I like to go out and start business and look at things that are kind of interesting and chase after them.
Hmm.
But you were in working for Basin City, and it wasn't that you weren't. Did you not like being an employee? Did you not like a paycheck, or did you just see opportunity and couldn't help yourself?
Um, I think I didn't really like working. I didn't like being controlled.
Mm.
I didn't like, I didn't have the freedom to do what I wanted. I felt like, I felt like I was stifled. And my wife, if she had her way, I'd still be doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's safer for the wives and the other people to have consistent. Problem with the entrepreneurship is the inconsistency, right? Which is probably
Hmm.
what you like. You like the risk and the reward and the ambition and the creativity, where most people wouldn't like that. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, a few years ago, I had a company out of Canada came down, and this was like, I don't know, 20 years, not even that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They came down and knew that I've been involved in the export business, and they came down and says, "Hey, why don't you buy into this business with us?" And I thought, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So I bought in, but I wasn't really the total owner of it, and I had to start it from scratch. They nothing. I had to go out and do the same thing I did when I lived in Ellensburg when my dad and I were together. Go out, start talking to farmers, and start building it up, and it got going pretty good. And but I really didn't like being controlled. I felt like I was controlled even with them. I hated it. Towards the end, my wife even picked it up. She was, "You don't like this, do you?" I go, "No, I like it. It's good." And they paid me really good, and it was during the Obama years when things were shit. And so they paid me really good. And so I couldn't complain about that. But
But eventually that ended as well, and you went off to do it again, do your own entrepreneurial vision again.
yeah, they actually fired me, believe it or not, because I
No,
was
not you, not an entrepreneur.
it was one of the employees that had stock and I had more, but he was kind of a general manager and he was kind of a weasel. And the owner, I don't think he really wanted to. And you know what's funny is after they fired me, the thing went in the toilet. So I was actually quite lucky that I got out. But the reason they fired me is because the employee saw how much I was making in commissions and he couldn't take it.
Well, you know who they say about the worst employee is, right?
What's that?
An entrepreneur is the worst employee.
Probably.
Yeah, that's what I know. Whenever I interview people and they've started a lot of business by themselves, it gets me really concerned because entrepreneurs like to start stuff. right? I mean, listen to your story. You went from shipping, buying trucks, saw an opportunity, then where you worked for somebody, got quit. Did you quit the HVAC job, or did you get fired from there as well?
No, I quit there.
So you quit that job, started companies, kept doing it. So I guess that's interesting. So what? I mean, I guess the other question you have, Brian, is kind of we're looking into now is you've done. What are you doing right now? I guess what I'm curious. I guess what everybody would listening to. What are you involved in right now? What's the next thing for Brett? Since obviously there's always a next thing.
Well, actually, I've been listening to Grant Cardone, and pretty heavily, and it kind of motivates me. I was thinking, I need to do something else. The only problem is I have this son that's trying to put a bit in my mouth to hold me back, and so I kind of
Are you saying I'm trying to control you?
yes, and I'm kind of like that.
Hey, you can quit if you like.
There's this, there is this show called Up, and I think I'm like that dog. The shiny ball is business. I think I see something. I think, we can make that work. But at my age, the physical work and stuff like that, it's a little more difficult. And so I don't know what my next adventure is.
Well, I did want to cover a little bit, just to backtrack. What are some of the mistakes that you made, like the critical mistakes that you made in some of your earlier experiences of owning and starting businesses that really set you back in some of those? And can you go a little bit in depth on those critical mistakes that were made?
Well, when I was younger, I was doing really, really good. And I actually thought that whatever I touched turned to gold. I know that kind of sounds funny, but I really felt that way. And so when I would see somebody like, let's say, Grant Cardone, and they would start talking, I say, that guy's full of shit. He don't know nothing. And I think maybe if I would have thought, you know what, I should take some of the advice that this guy's teaching in his different workshops and apply them in my everyday life, I think that I could have got ahead faster because my attitude would have changed.
Do you feel like that held you back in some of your experiences early on,
I think that
as far as the growth pattern?
yeah, I think I could have been way more successful if I would have just changed my attitude a little bit and taught and learned what he's teaching. I think I could have been more successful.
Now, are you saying that education, or because you said you had a mentor originally, Ron Anderson, right? Is that him, the Ron Anderson? He was your he didn't know he was mentoring you, but you were emulating him, is what you were doing.
I was copying him.
Now, is that what you're saying? You wish you had a mentor? Or you just wish you would have had more education?
I think,
or just a more open mind to information.
Yes, I think I wish I had a more open mind to information, and I didn't like to read. I hate to read. I'd fall asleep. And now they have these, you have the internet and you have tapes and crap like that. And I think that if I would have used those kind of training a little more, I think it'd have been more open-minded. I was kind of closed-minded. I think I could have been more successful at different things.
Well, honestly, that's a perfect example of, I preach this numerous times. Me and Kellen, we were just talking about it the other day. One thing I've always preached is the day you feel like you can't learn something new from somebody, anyone, that's the day you start to fail.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect example of that.
Sometimes you think, oh, I just work faster and harder, but it doesn't work. You still keep digging yourself that hole. Somebody said, if you keep doing the same thing you did yesterday and nothing changes, then you need to start changing something.
It's the definition of insanity. Yeah. Doing the same thing over and over again, the same way, and expecting a different result.
Right.
Yeah.
It's learning how to adapt, it's learning how to adjust, and learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel like some of those mistakes that you made early on, some of those critical mistakes you made, learning from those, how do you feel like it adjusted your approach in companies that you started, later on in life? And how do you feel like it benefited you by avoiding those mistakes?
I think that I've only started changing my mistakes in the last few years because I kept going down the same road. I could start the business. I was good at that. I was good at getting it going, but I was a shitty operator. I was good at sales, pretty good at sales, but I was just a poor operator.
What's the difference between you being able, I mean, most people have a hard time starting the business. That's the scariest thing for most business people, right? Is actually the
Yeah.
starting of it. I mean, what do you like, what's difference about you, but what's the difference between you and everybody else? How come you can do it so easily where that's the biggest hurdle for everybody else?
Because I can live on nothing.
That's it. You just think you can live less?
I know when things get shitty, I can just suck it up. And you know what? There was a guy that came by my house the other day and he wanted to trim some shrubs. And I said, fine. So he went out there and trimmed got half of them done and wanted to get paid half. And I says, fine, whatever. Anyway, and I think the thing is, it was Christmas Eve. I don't think he had any money. And so he was scrambling to make Christmas. And so he did everything he possibly could to get that money for Christmas. And I think when you start a business, you have to have that kind of mindset. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get this going. I had a boy say one time, I hate this shit and come like this, and this sucks and blah, 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 just bitching and moaning. And I told him, I said, well, then go do some more sales and get yourself out of the attic. So
That was me, by the way. I remember. Let me tell you the full story here, okay? It was the middle of summer. It was like July or August. I was in an attic. I was going to college and I was sweating. And I remember had insulation all over the place and I was itching myself. And I was thinking, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I wanted to be, you don't go to college to install ductwork, right? And a hot attic. And I remember thinking, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And then you said, if you want to get out of the attic, you got to do more sales. So if you want to get out of the field, sell more and then you can then hire people to do the field work. And it was definitely a game changer for me because I thought, okay, I had to change my mindset. Instead of working, like Brett said, instead of working harder, I got to change my mindset. I'm a salesperson. I'm not an installer, right? That's what happened.
you can get installers all day long. Good salespeople are hard to find. So I think
So
that's with most businesses. They're shitty salesmen. They're good at the trade. They're shitty salesmen. I was a good salesman. I was just shitty at the trade.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is, we've discussed previously as well, is offloading some of those tasks, taking some accountability on things that you know you're good at, and then delegating those other assignments to people that you can trust in that. What's your experience in offloading some of those tasks once you got to the point where you understood, hey, I'm not good at this part. I need somebody else to take on.
My problem is and what I would do, and this is not, I'm not saying do this, you're better off being a better manager. When somebody would say, hey, I'll take this responsibility from you, I'd dump it on them. I was done. And a lot of people like to micromanage me. No, I was done. They say,
Yeah.
I can do that. And once they took it, I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, what's one thing that you would do differently if you were to look back, or what would the one thing you would change if you could go back and do it again, or tell your younger self that? What would you do or tell yourself?
I think that I would try to, I mean, even though I think the sales are important. I think I would have tried to, maybe, I don't know. I'm just damn good. I can't think of anything I'd change. I don't really know. I mean, I think that I would try to, get more involved in the business side of stuff. Pay attention more. Be
In the
better.
management or
Yeah.
like,
I think that's my problem is I didn't manage very well.
so you would tell yourself to learn more of the management side?
There's a man here.
Okay.
He needs to talk to you.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll pause it right here. We'll jump back into it. Go ahead.
Okay.
He's a painter. Connor just called me and said.
You got questions you want to go over? I don't know. I'm just kind of talking, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the last one I definitely wanted to ask is if you could have one advice for a new entrepreneur. If you
yeah.
could give one advice, one piece of advice that you honestly feel like would change the whole aspect of starting a new business to a new entrepreneur, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know what else though.
Okay,
Ready? No,
Yeah.
nobody important, I hope.
it was a painter.
Oh, okay. All right. So what were we talking about last? We are talking about
You wanna know what I
Well,
changed?
oh yeah. Have you decided what you would said you would just work on the management side more?
I think I don't know what I'd change on that.
well, let me phrase it this way. So, if you could give one piece of advice to a new entrepreneur that you really felt like would change their whole aspect of how they start out a business, what would that one piece of advice be?
Hmm. One piece of advice. Well, there's a lot. I mean, I think I would, I tell you, I would not borrow money to start a business
You wouldn't borrow money to start a business. Why is that?
because it probably is gonna fail.
Yeah, don't they say that an entrepreneur has like 6 businesses before the actual one actually even succeeds, right? They have to go out of business. I read one book somewhere they said it who was it? They said you should go bankrupt at least before you're 30 once, right? You got to go at least bankrupt once but before you're 30. That way you have time to recuperate. But he says,
Actually,
yeah.
when you go broke, you bounce back faster.
Have you seen that?
I did it.
In every business. So are you saying that every time if you were to restart a business today, you could no matter what business if you were to start a business today, what business would that be?
Um, I don't know. The virtual labor is pretty good because it's you don't have to carry any receivables. Anything that doesn't carry receivables is good. When you have to start carrying money, then it gets bad, especially
So
with contractors, things like that. Carrying money is not good. You want a business that pays cash. You're not chasing money. Because if I think about how much money I lost with people just not paying, it's a lot.
yeah. So you would do a business that's cash up front, so to
Cash up
speak.
front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
And I think I'm thinking about it. I think one thing that I didn't do very good. So when I was in the HVAC business, people are too scared to charge what their service is worth. And majority of businesses go broke because they don't charge what they're worth. They think, oh shit, I can't afford that. But yeah, you can't afford that. That's why you're broke. But those guys can afford it. And so you got to look at what they have. I want a nice house. He's got a boat. I want a boat. And so you need to charge what you're worth. And I think for us, I had a hard time for that too until the son's coming along and says, actually, we started using this pricing thing. And then after the boys came along, they got more aggressive in the pricing structure. And now you make money because most entrepreneurs, most small businesses, their number one problem is they don't charge what they're worth. I had a guy come to my office the other day and he wanted to do trim work. He told me his price. First thing I did is, I'll give you money less. I'll give you $200 less. And what did he do? He goes, okay. And he grabbed it and went on his way. He could have held that. He could have just said, hey, that's for the price. And it's because I do a good service, blah, 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 blah. And I'd have paid it. But he didn't do that.
So
Caved.
you would say don't negotiate your prices? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I wouldn't negotiate. I'd say this is the price.
Take it or leave it?
Yeah, I'm this price because of this service. I explained this is why I'm this amount of money.
Did you used to negotiate your prices?
Sometimes on construction I did, but not a lot. Maybe it's on service stuff. You go in there and you say, "Oh shoot, this guy he can't afford that," and I adjust the price. You don't want to adjust your price.
That's well said. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to value yourself. You need to value your own time, especially as an entrepreneur. And the whole reason why you're doing that is to create a lifestyle for yourself. And if you set that standard that you don't even value your own time, then obviously no one's going to have that type of respect that you're looking for.
Yeah, these young guys go out and start a job. The first thing they do, they're terrible at sales. They're terrible at accounting, and they don't market for shit. But they're good at the trade.
Yeah.
They
That's
have
a typical handyman, plumber, HVAC, electrician, right? They're good at the work.
They have a dream,
Yep.
but they just don't. They have the dream, but they don't know what they're doing. I think for me, I have my father. He was really good at that kind of stuff. So for me, that was a little better. And we were selling overseas, so it was a little different at first. But when I started doing trucking and things, and I was good at sales, so I knew if you want to get, you're good at sales, you just got to pound the pavement. I spent a lot of time pounding the pavement, talking to dairymen, talking to farmers, just beating the floor. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They think, oh, I'm good at word of mouth. When people say they do a word of mouth deal, that's a hobby. That's not a business.
Exactly. Well, I do have one final question for you. Without giving too many details away, what's Brett cooking up for his next opportunity?
My next opportunity?
What ideas you have or verticals or industries are you excited about to where it might be another opportunity for you?
Well, I had trucks for years, and once you get that diesel smoke in your nose, you just can't hardly get it out. But my boys keep beating me down on that one, so I'm not going to do that. I don't know. I've been thinking of a few things. I can't really think what it is. I was thinking the other day, I thought that'd be a good business to have. Oh, well, the problem is when somebody tells me something and I hear about it, then I think, oh shit, that's a good deal. I should do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Kellen told me one the other day, and I've been looking at stuff, looking at different ones around town about how they do it. But I don't want to buy. I hate buying businesses. I like to start them because you know what? When I started, I know what I got. I got nothing. When you buy a business, you're buying somebody else's headache, and they think, oh, well, he's making money. Yeah, but really, is he
He's selling it for a reason.
selling it for a reason?
Yep.
So
Me and Kellen,
don't buy a business, start a business is what your 2 cents would be.
I would.
Yeah.
So you struggle a little bit. If you're doing crappy, what are you gonna do? How do you get more business? You got to do more sales.
So you think the biggest issue people won't start a business is they're too comfortable with their income and they can't survive on less of an income. They've gotten because that's a thing, right? You make more money, your comfort of living goes higher, and that's the new standard. You can't go below that, right? Is that you think the biggest reason why people don't start more businesses?
Yeah, I think that's why they don't, and they're scared to because they get a paycheck. Let's say a construction job, they get a paycheck, and they don't realize that about 20% of that's theirs, and the rest of it goes to suppliers and labor and whatever. You got to learn to you just got to learn to live on nothing, is what I always said. But I might not be the right thing, but I think that if you can get by and then just sell like crazy, because you sell like crazy, then you can start hiring people and they can start doing the work.
You can always outsell your problems, right?
Always outsell your problems.
Yeah.
That's a good problem. You know, getting somebody sales, but if they're not selling, then their word of mouth, it's nothing. Go back and work for somebody.
So if I were to start a business today, let's say I were to sell water softeners, what would be the first thing you would have me do?
I would have you reach out to all our customers and say, hey, we're offering water softeners, and send them emails, call them existing customers first. Is what I would, and then I would start advertising on the internet, because internet takes a little longer for it to generate, but your customers, they know you. They trust
So first rule is get on the phone, start calling people.
Exactly.
And then work on the internet.
Yep.
Which step in that do you actually start the legal business and everything? Do you start that beforehand or you do that after?
I've done both. I figured it's better to do it. That's what is it? It's better to
Ask for forgiveness than
Yeah,
for permission.
that's right.
Like you did with the checks and the semi trucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can get that
How
now,
many
but
how many businesses did you start before you stopped doing that? I'm
doing
just kidding.
bouncing
Check
checks.
fraud?
Yeah, but yeah.
That was the first one. But you know what? When I was in the hay business, the bank came into us, and this was when online bank was just barely getting going. And they says, "Yeah, you
Mhm.
can check your bank account every day." Really? Yeah, you can fudge, and you can spend more money because you know it's not cleared the account. But back then, you could write a check and you'd have a week,
Yeah.
and they were promoting us playing off that leverage of hoping the check
The
would
banks were saying you can write checks even though there's no money in the account.
the money's in the account, but the checks haven't cleared. So technically there's still money in the account and you can just watch that and take advantage of the delay.
The bank was promoting this.
Now there's no delay.
That's a contrast difference of what the banks are doing now. That's literally what they would, now they tell us don't do that because that's check fraud. But the banks at one time were saying you can write checks even without money in the bank because you can
Well,
leverage the time the check
yeah,
is pending.
They can leverage the time is what they said. Because
Wow.
they said it takes about a week for it to clear and you just have to leverage. That's risky as hell. I wouldn't recommend that. And now you can't do that. You
Well, they've stopped all that since 2008. So
Yeah.
well, the checks clear immediately. You can't,
exactly.
there's no lag. There used to be a week, sometimes longer. Everything was checks.
Well, thank you so much, Brett. We really appreciate this. Any
Okay.
final thoughts?
Just keep your nose to the ground. Keep up sales. That's where the money is. Don't do sales, you're gonna die.
Well said. Well, now we want to hear from you guys. If you're currently struggling with anything specific in your business, leave it in the comments. We'll try to respond as much as possible. We might even make an episode to dive deeper in how to overcome it. And if you found any value today, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to be notified of any upcoming episodes. For now, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kellen with GHV Mentors.
Until next time.